Hello, hello, hello. Hi, I am Sylvia Hayes, and you are watching Good News at Primetime. Welcome, welcome, welcome. There has been so many things that's happening in these past couple of weeks. And it affects everybody. It affects everybody. Gun laws, women's rights being violated, everything. So we're going to talk about that today. They just had a shooting on July the 4th. Our governor, y'all governor, has given them permission to just carry guns. So now people can just carry guns and go around and shoot everybody. Okay, so no life, no love there. Take a life. It's okay. I'm giving you permission, but they're gonna prevent women from having abortion. Women can't take a life. But all of these men who are going out there shooting, they can. They can take a life. You have this gun and you can shoot and shoot and shoot because your governor gave them permission to carry a gun and they can do what they want. They don't have to have all this permits and everything else. It's a lot that's going on. Women's rights being violated because, they want the women to have more babies. They don't. If a man had to carry a baby and had to go through that labor, he wouldn't be wishing that on anybody. If you love humanity, you wouldn't want to wish that pain on anybody, but they do. And they're going to force you to go through it. 10-year-old child pregnant. And they're going to force that child to go through that labor. Girl don't even know if she's still playing with baby dolls. And now she's going to have a baby. But fortunately, she crossed the line and didn't have to do it. Okay. But it's so many people being affected by this. So many people. So we're going to have to talk about that tonight. But before we get started, we got to get some good news in. This is my book, Power Thoughts, Empowering You to Be Successful in Life. I got to get this right. Empowering you to be successful in life. This book is so powerful. And today's power thought is stand up for what you believe in, but make sure it's the right one. That's one of the messages in my book, Power Thoughts. Stand up for what you believe in, but make sure it's the right thing. Because right now, standing up for women's rights is the right thing. It is the right thing. So we're going to not delay any further, and we're going to go ahead and talk to my co-host, Reggie Drummer. Hey, Reggie, how you doing?
What's up, Miss Sylvia? What's up to the audience? I'm glad to be here, coming off the Independence and the Juneteenth, 15 days after Juneteenth, the celebration, and a whole lot of things going on. And I'm excited. It's a good day to be alive in America. America's done some things over the last 2 weeks that we got to discuss tonight. Definitely want everybody, encourage everybody to like, subscribe, and hit that bell over there on the Square Mile Media Atlanta so that you can share this with your friends, families, and loved ones. Tonight tonight we're going to be talking about something that really affects everybody. I don't, out of all the decisions that the Supreme Court has ever made, the one that stands in everybody's mind is Roe versus Wade. Roe versus Wade. Roe versus
Mm-hmm.
Wade. They might not know none of these others. They're not, they might bring up Brown versus the Board of Education, but Roe versus Wade, that was a landmark decision that stands out in everybody's mind. And there's a couple of different things, and I always like to throw a trivia thing out there. I was like, why is Roe versus Wade so controversial? Not just because of the abortion, not just because of the right for women to choose, but that was one of the first times the judicial branch of the government,
Mm-hmm.
the judicial branch of the government, you got the executive, you got the legislative, and you got the judicial. That was their first time that they did something real big. And a lot of Americans thought it was sneaky. They thought it was sneaky. So that's why Roe versus Wade, and then you got to look at the case. Why did they pick that case over all the abortion cases that were out? They had a case right here in Georgia.
Yep.
But the Supreme Court elected to pick that case, Roe versus Wade, a fictitious name, Jane Roe. And guess what happened the day they announced that Roe versus Wade was in effect?
A lot of people
Guess
went
what
to
the
the street.
headlines of no? Guess what the headline news was?
What?
LBJ died. The same day they announced Roe versus Wade, that was a headline news. 36th president of the United States dead.
Oh.
Yep,
Oh,
that's
okay.
what that was. If you got a paper, 1973, when Roe versus Wade came out, the headlines read, Lyndon Baines Johnson died, and a little thing under that. The second big thing was Roe versus Wade. Uh,
Ah.
uh,
Oh,
the,
okay.
the
See, I didn't know he had
Supreme
died
Court.
that day.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, when they announced that, then the Supreme Court announces that they found it constitutional for women to have a right to privacy, and a right to privacy put them in the neighborhood of having the right to choose. And that's why we got all this stuff going on now. That's been like over 50 years ago.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is. And this case have really hurt a lot of people. It's hurting a lot of people. And Margaret, what's her name? Margaret
Singer,
Singer.
the
Okay,
pro tem-
yeah.
yeah.
A lot of people say that she created the Planned Parenthood just to get rid of black babies, but in my research, she was doing that for women as a whole before they did the Planned Parenthood. So she was
Mm.
fighting for women's right to choose before she came up with the Planned Parenthood thing. Because a lot of women didn't want to have babies and they were forced to have it, and she was fighting for women's rights then. Not just black
Okay.
people to have babies, but for everybody.
Well,
So I don't
well,
know.
even after the decision that happened on Friday, you can still get an abortion. Well, we
Mm-hmm.
won't, but people can still get an abortion.
Yeah,
It's
crossing the
just
line,
not
but it's
back.
going to cost a lot.
Well, it's going to be on the individual states. The Constitution, you don't have the power of the Constitution backing you. It's just like the right to vote, the right to go to desegregated schools. See, all of those are things that were added based on, I guess, the 14th Amendment, the right to due process and all that. And they tied abortion right in there, and people were never real happy that they did that. They never were happy. America was never happy with that ruling. I mean, America's done some things, and when you think about that's women rights, I think most people, I'm pro-life, okay,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm also, I don't have to bring a life in the world, so I don't want to be the one that makes a choice for the woman. Okay,
Yeah,
she's got to make that choice.
I'm pro-life too. For me
Yeah,
personally,
most of us are. We don't want to kill babies.
I don't think I would have an abortion just to be having it. But I know women who been in abusive relationships, and it's like, I can't bring another baby into this world. He's going to have a stronger hold on me. I got to get out, So they got to have that abortion to help free themselves from that abusive man. And then there were girls who were raped. College guys, they think it's cool, to put some drugs in the girl's drink and knock her out so everybody can do a train on her. She get pregnant, she's too ashamed to tell anybody. So if she get pregnant, she want to go have an abortion. Now, what chances will she have? And all of those men, all those pedophiling men, they're going to have some babies to take care of, because everybody's not telling. They're not telling, but this going to bring it out. But we have other guests. We have guests to come in and join us in this conversation. We have Miss Sharon here. Hi, Sharon. How are you?
Hello. Wonderful. Yeah. Bless you all.
Oh, thank
you. Can you hear me okay?
Everything's going good. And we have Miss Lisa Sales. Hi, Lisa. How are you?
Hi there. Thank you for having me. Good to be with you all.
Oh, anytime. So, ladies, I know you have a lot to say. First of all, let's start. Lisa, tell us a little bit about you.
I am the president of Virginia Now, National Organization for Women in Virginia. And I was one of the key folks in Virginia, working with a lot of other dedicated volunteers to realize the ratification of the ERA in Virginia and make Virginia the 38th and final state. I'm a sexual assault survivor and someone who fights for women's rights and the rights of sexual and domestic violence survivors.
Okay. So you're in there. Sharon, you want to tell the audience a little bit about you?
I am Sharon J. Gill, and I am the co-chair of the Constitutional Equality for Georgia Now with Miss Juliana Njuku. And for all of the other organizations, but working with Lisa, we are on the road for the Equal Rights Amendment for the 28th, as the 28th, as the 28th Amendment, okay?
Okay. So, ladies, tell me, what was the first thing that went through your mind when you heard that Roe versus Wade was overturned?
Sure. Do you want me to go first, or did you want to go first?
I do want you to go first because we've had a lot of conversation, and really and truly, when I was invited to come, thank you so very much, Sylvia and Reginal. We're working on an event, and we're working on more actions. And so yes, nationally for local areas as well. And so I want to share, because we do have someone else on, Elder Jacqueline Norris Baker, also from Maryland. And this is the work, this is all of us. We have been working tirelessly. And there are others, senior, I call them veteran ERA warriors and champions. And so without further ado, yes, Lisa, we were talking about it. We knew about it. Possibilities abounded. and then it happened. So go ahead, Lisa.
Yeah, even when you expect something, it's still sort of this stinging slap in the face when you actually hear it's a thing and that Roe has been overturned. And I think what many don't understand is that legislators can make laws until the cows come home. And they can change laws upon whim and roll them back. And we've seen this with Roe. So even if we move out to codify Roe in individual states, and even if we move out to codify Roe at a federal level in Congress, women still need constitutional undergirding so that it can't be rolled back in the future. And I think there's this real misconception that the ERA, the Equal Rights Amendment, is this old dusty relic of the 70s. No, we need it now. We need it more than ever. And we need it to undergird Roe. We need it for pregnancy discrimination, gender discrimination, pay inequity, violence against women, and so many other things. But right now, Roe is the pressing issue of the day. Not enabling. Yes, I'm pro-life too, but I'm also pro-choice. And I want women to make their own decisions. And this is going to disproportionately harm, let's face it, Black and brown women and low-income women. And we are putting them in a box. And this is also why women need the ERA. They need the ERA to buttress Roe. And I think we need to together help Americans, particularly American women, understand why the ERA is so important to Roe and so many other things. Constitutional protections, that's the name of the game. It's hard to mess with the Constitution. You can mess with all other laws.
Awesome. And it is so important, as she mentioned, as Lisa mentioned, what it will help to do. But let's be real clear that this is about healthcare at the core as well. And as Lisa also said, regarding who it will affect most. And I see someone else that has joined. Is that Jean or I can't?
Yes.
Yes, it is, Miss Jean Sweeney. Rethinking Eve. And Jean, thank you for joining. Sylvia mentioned something that regarding the 10-year-old, and something that Jean has been advocating about is the forced birth. But we have spoken about all of these different areas, as Lisa had already spoken to. But Jean, please, for Rethinking Eve.
Oh, yes. I am a Catholic woman, and I've been listening to the priests in the Catholic churches now for 65 years. But the bottom line is, and I think that the Supreme Court has gone on this way of interpreting, is that women are born to birth children, and that if they die in birthing children, that's God's will, and that if a 10-year-old is pregnant, it's in God's hands, and that's kind of how they see it. And the issue is that the UN considers the lack of access to reproductive health, the lack of access to abortion, to actually be torture. It's the torture of women. They are promoting the torture of women. And I think the society in general is not talking about that we're in a very different place right now. And that the Supreme Court has taken us back to basically 1868. And in 1868, when the 14th and 15th Amendment were put into the Constitution, they were supposed to be for all women, but they were supposed to include women. The men stripped women out, and then they came in with criminalizing abortion and with the Comstock laws, which stripped out, criminalized putting in laws around contraception, or talking about contraception. So history is repeating itself. But the fabulous news about the moment we're in, I think, is that in 1920, with the 19th Amendment, Wilson was the Democratic president in power, and he was not pro women's vote. And when he was in his first term, and in the second term, he was not pro women's vote, but the women were able to go in and basically put enough pressure on him so that they were able to get him to back women's vote, and then also to then get the 19th Amendment put into the Constitution. So I think we're in the same moment where in history where we are if we can get Biden, enough pressure on Biden for him to publish the Equal Rights Amendment, we then can take off and begin to have the next 100 years debating what equality for women looks like under the Constitution. But certainly that pieces are that women have bodily integrity and personal autonomy. There'll be questions about how much they have, but they definitely have bodily integrity and personal autonomy underneath. And the Equal Rights Amendment, which says the government can no longer discriminate based on sex.
I think one of the things too that we ought to bring up and explain, because it gets really esoteric when we talk about amendments, and none of us, except for maybe you, are constitutional scholars or constitutional law professors, and so sometimes we have to break this down. And the reason women were allowed to get abortions was vis-a-vis the 14th Amendment and privacy laws, right? The right to privacy. And now that's what the Supreme Court has struck down, is this right to privacy, not a fundamental right of equality or prohibition on discrimination based on sex. And while folks may think, oh, this is just a women's rights thing, no, it doesn't even say the word woman in the ERA, what is the duly ratified 28th unpublished amendment to the Constitution today. It is about prohibiting sex discrimination, any kind of sex discrimination. So we need the ERA, and we need fundamental equality and not just right to privacy. So the reason why they were able to strike it down is because there's nothing in the Constitution today that talks about equality or precludes, or rather prohibits, discrimination based on gender or gender identity.
Ladies,
thank you,
this
Lisa.
is Norris.
Thank you.
Ladies, I had a question. One of the things that's good to have all of you. Welcome. And being the only man over here, but I'm pro-life and pro-choice, and I think sometimes men get the wrong impression when they talk about the rights of women. And I know you all brought something up about the 28th Amendment, but we are also in a position of what's next. Even though the Supreme Court said it wasn't constitutional based on how this particular court looked at the rule, in their ruling. But there are certain things that legislation can do to put in effect that even affect the Constitution. And one of those things could be another amendment. Can either of y'all speak on that?
So what the Supreme Court previously did that enabled women's right to choose was to interpret a right to privacy in the 14th Amendment. Now that has been rescinded, right? That has been overturned. That right to privacy no longer exists today as a result of the SCOTUS opinion, the Supreme Court of the United States opinion. But what we have done is, for folks that don't remember from their history books, because I didn't till I got super involved and dove in myself, is that, you need Congress to send out a resolution or ratify a resolution and send it out to the states for ratification. You must have 3/4 of the states to ratify. That means in today's states, given we have 50 states, it means 38 states must ratify for an amendment to the Constitution to be published. What happens is once the final and 38 state ratifies, certification is sent to the record keeper, or the sort of Secretary of the United States, who is the National Archivist. And the National Archivist's responsibility in the amending process, if you will, is simply ministerial in nature, secretarial in nature. And the archivist is supposed to immediately, upon receiving notification from the 38th state, the legislature of the 38th state, is to certify it with his signature, sort of put a stamp or a gold seal on it and ribbon, and publish it in the Federal Register. And then it's supposed to be printed in all the constitutions of the United States. Well, we missed a little opportunity here. Virginia ratified and became the 38th state January 27, 2020. And we did what we were supposed to do, as all the 37 states before us had done, and sent proof of that ratification to the National Archivist of the United States. And then the part we're missing now is it has not been certified by the archivist and published, but it is duly ratified. So we are saying we have a 28th Amendment. You might not see it in the fine print. You might not see it in any print, but it is the law of the land according to the states.
Okay.
So the 28th Amendment.
But I think your question is that, yes, it's very logical to think that the legislators can go in and legislate around this decision. But then what's happening is the Supreme Court keeps shutting it down, so that even if a legislature comes up with a legislation, it winds its way up to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court kicks it out. So it creates a tremendous, nobody can actually has secure footing, because you don't, even if if a legislature in Georgia, for example, gives women, boundaries and a framework of reproductive health, then somebody sues on it. When it gets to the Supreme Court, it's knocked out, and then everybody has to start again, which is kind of what they're doing in gun control, and what they actually did on the old Violence Against Women Act. They kicked some of that out as well.
Well, equal pay, right? The Lilly Ledbetter Fair Pay Act, has been legislated in Congress, but it's hardly enforceable. And when it was brought to the Supreme Court, she did not win. And so that's why we need fundamental equality laws. When women have been sexually assaulted on university campuses, and they have brought their claims, that receive federal funding, and they've brought their claims up to the Supreme Court of the United States. The Supreme Court has said, yeah, we're sorry this has happened to you, but there's actually no judicial remedy for you at this level, because we don't have constitutional equality enshrined. So therein lies the problem, right? If there's no law or body of law that is codified in the Constitution, it's hard for women or any victim to bring their case.
Yeah. So
did I hear that the HIPAA laws were dismantled now? Did I hear that? Anybody?
So.
Either one of us? Because I'm hearing something about the privacy, and I'm thinking HIPAA is the privacy law. Is that dismantled?
I know what you're talking about, but that's going to take me a moment to look up.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yeah, because I know I heard something
Lisa,
about if a woman have an abortion, they will look her up or something like that and put her in jail for doing that.
No, I think what you're talking about is if you use a mobile app to track your cycle. The question is, can that be subpoenaed as evidence that you aborted your child upon declaration of pregnancy, right? Could that be used, that information be used against you? Could that, during discovery, could someone request that information from the app that you use on your phone, because there's no right to privacy now, right? And say, oh, you aborted your child, therefore you're being brought up on criminal charges.
Wow.
So if a woman miscarries and she had to go get cleaned out, do they charge her for that too?
Depends on the state.
So let's make sure. So say what that is, a DNC. Okay. Medical.
Okay, DNC.
Okay. You're right. Okay. Go ahead, Lisa.
No, I was just saying, Sharon, that it depends on the state, right? In some cases, there are exceptions for rape and incest. In a lot of states that have now their trigger laws have gone into effect now. They don't explicitly protect women who have been raped or experienced incest, and so potentially they could be brought up on charges. Also, anybody that has assisted a woman or a woman's doctor could also be potentially brought up on charges. Now we're hearing from prosecutors across the nation. Some progressive prosecutors are saying, no, we're not going to pursue that. That's insane. That's ridiculous. And our courts will be flooded. And other conservative states are saying they would pursue they would pursue going after a woman and her doctor and or any of her friends that maybe drove her to the clinic or to the doctor's office to get a D&C or an abortion. Even if the child is maybe there's a horrible story that's circulating and the mother was interviewed where the child didn't have a brainstem. So rather than carry the baby to term, because the baby would not be viable outside the womb without a brainstem, she elected to have an abortion. And depending on which state she lives in, she might be brought up on criminal charges.
Wow.
So I've known women who had one baby and they said, I would never do this again because it was so bad for them. And so now women are going to be punished for being a woman if they don't have a baby when they get pregnant. That's the case, huh? That's sick. It is sick.
It depends on the state. It just depends on the state. And what the Supreme Court has said is that there's no federal guidelines. There's no federal guardrails. There's no civil rights regarding abortion on a federal level, and that it's now at the state level. And so it's state by state as to what the state laws are. Now we're seeing, I think Tennessee just is proposing a law, and South Carolina, which are really draconian laws. And this is about controlling women. This is about putting making women, they can't thrive because there's so much stress on them. And the other thing that I know I'm the oldest of 6 children. My mother had 6 children in 7 years. My aunt had 15 children in 17 years. And what happens in these families, if there is no access to abortion, is that the young girls have their wings clipped as soon as they start to menstruate. The mothers are petrified that they'll get pregnant. And so the young girls their wings are clipped immediately.
I think what's important also to note, though, is it impacts our livelihoods for our entire lives and inhibits our ability to build wealth. Right. And we already see this in the black and brown communities. Right. So this is adding insult to injury. So unless you're wealthy and you can access this care, and even if you are in a state that restricts it and you have to travel to another state to get the health care that you desire, you could possibly be brought up on charges for going to another state to get that care if you have the money to get that care, or somebody makes that grant, right, or supports your right to choose that. And what's going to happen is it's going to get awfully confusing awfully fast, because there will be this patchwork of laws all across the nation, and nobody's going to know which law applies to them, and worse yet, how it's going to be interpreted and applied in your case. And in some cases, they're even talking about making sure a woman cannot use the morning after pill, or perhaps as draconian as not even having access to contraceptions at all. So contraception, yeah.
So all of those women who get raped, and that happens every day just about, they would not have access to the morning after pill. They just have to suffer the consequences. It's bad enough that you have to carry that with you, and then you get pregnant, the shame behind that. And that's even so, okay, they say these women have to carry these babies. So are they going to change the law so when they have that baby, they drop it on somebody's doorstep Are they going to change the law where they won't go after them women for doing that?
Well, there's been some talk of that as well. But again, there's not one law that's going to apply. It depends on where you reside and in which state. So not all of this is uniform or universal. So, and we don't know what to expect. So that throws a wrench in everything as well, right? Lots of confusion and chaos and worry and concern. And as Jean was saying, you know, adding more stress to women who are already on the pointy end of the spear for everything, right? We already don't get equal pay. We already don't get promoted at the same rate as men. We don't have the same, forget just equal pay. You know, one of my colleagues often says to me, Lisa, it's not just about equal pay. It's about pay compensation packages as well, retirement, pension, other benefits. Women don't have the same access to that as men.
Okay, this is.
See, we got two more guests.
Yeah.
Hey,
can you hear
how
me?
You doing? Yes,
Good
ma'am.
morning. I am Elder Norris Baker. I am from Maryland. I am a Washingtonian. I can date back from 1930 with my great-great-grandfather's census as a professional preacher. I am in the AME Church, was ordained also in the Baptist Church. But what I want to bring to this moment is that African-American women wrote a pamphlet about ERA and abortion. Women across the nation are meeting, Black women across the nation, under the call of Reverend Dr. Juanita Weems is on a call right now with the theme, You Won't Break Our Souls. And we find it very interesting that this decision was made the same day of the swearing in of the first Black woman Supreme Court justice. And what I want to emphasize is that we are with our sisters on the other side, but it is imperative that they understand that this is not a feminist movement. This is a womanist, because Black women, as Alice Walker said, have been women all of our lives. And with the rewriting of the women's ERA, which I am a part, I stand here for those enslaved women who cannot say that their heritage is the Mayflower or some other. They were the ones who birthed out of their wombs the free labor. So when we talk about women's rights, we are talking about white men now trying to control white women who have most of the abortions. But then no one's talking about the call for the Black woman to stand again, and meaning that they, in a sense, will have to go to the back rooms. So let it not be dissuaded that this is an equal issue unless the Black woman's agenda is on the table without any other woman speaking for her.
Okay.
Yeah, and my problem with that is that they already said that Black women having babies so they can get welfare checks. You know, I've heard that a lot of times. They're having all these babies so they can get welfare checks. So when women want to not have babies, and then you're going to force them, so obviously you like them getting welfare checks. And who's going to take care of all of these children? Is the government going to provide care for these children when they have all of these babies? You know, but what are they going to do?
We're not caring for the half a
Okay.
million foster children we
let me
already
set
have.
the record straight. Let me set the record straight. Black women, the majority of women on welfare, because that was a part of my first dissertation at Trinity College, are white women. Check the record. So the welfare queens are not Black women, and we have to stop allowing those individuals who control the media to always throw Black women under the bus. But the true factor is white women are the ones who have the majority of the children and on welfare. So that's a narrative that is not true.
Yeah, I know that. Yeah, I
Okay,
know. Just like they're talking
okay. I
about with
just
food
wanted,
stamps.
I want to
Just like
clarify.
yeah, just like they say
Okay.
with food stamps, they always pointed towards black people, but black people ain't getting that much because they don't want them to have it. It's the white people who's getting the food stamps. You know,
But
they're the ones who's
also,
getting all of this aid.
but
It's not
see,
the
Okay.
black.
also this movement, no, this movement is about, and let me say this, and I'll let someone else speak. Okay, the new poor is now called affordable, um, living and affordable homes. That's the new concept to eradicate poor black people, especially poor black women who need housing. So we need to, in a sense, stop allowing others to formulate language to discard us, because what they do is they come on, say things without any inclusivity of the other side. And I must say this, my grandson is indigenous. So let's talk about the indigenous women who they have stolen, and they still will not give the right to birth or anything. So let us not just include two groups. There are more women, but especially
Yes.
the indigenous women voice who needs to be here. I'll be
And
quiet for
that,
a moment.
Now,
but to
I'm gonna have
that
a
point,
question.
but
I'm
but
gonna have a
but to
question
that
for you,
point,
ladies.
Reverend Norris,
Yes,
but to that to that point, Reverend Norris, is what we are speaking to for how we're standing and making
yes,
sure that it is
yes,
understood. Someone put in the chat, they are asking, what can supporters do right now? Those that are that have taken to the streets, those that have been speaking out, those that we know. And the reason that we're all here is to provide just a little bit, just a little bit more for what actually needs to be done. So the support and the actions that we've already been engaging in, such as calling the senators and a better understanding. I see Ms. Kavi Hoffman from Virginia, as well as my co-chair of Constitutional Equality with Georgia Now, Ms. Juliana Njuku, and I think, and as you heard, Lisa Sales is here, president of Now, is another Now chapter, and of course, Reverend Norris for all of her work within the faith community, as well as Sweeney here. Thank you for joining us. And we have other women across the country.
yes,
That's the whole thing, that we have been working for years. And Hobby
yes.
has her own story. I know we're down on time, but we do need to have those two speak, but we must understand that the Equal Rights Amendment is actually equal rights for all. And what occurs with it, once it is enshrined in the US Constitution, the law of the land, is that females will have personhood and thus not revered as or assigned as property in the Constitution.
Mhm.
But more importantly, it's about rights for all. And as
Oh,
we are speaking about what the Roe v. Wade affects and what it sets a precedent for, and why we need everybody to have a better understanding of where we are for such a time as this. We must not relegate Justice Clarence Thomas's what his memo said, okay? Because
amen.
therein lies what really is going on. And so with that, I want to make sure that people are understanding that we're not just pushing something. Oh, we thought it was done. Well, guess what? Yes, it is. It is, but there's more to do. To call our senators, but more importantly, we're trying to get a vote done. That is what can be done with Senator Schumer, and we're needing you to contact him because we've been doing it and we have more that we're doing. So I just wanted to make sure that Cobby dropped off. I'm sorry, but we do have Juliana and Juku. Juliana,
she's coming back on.
Oh, she's coming back on. And Cobby, if you could briefly speak to your part, because she is a veteran, just like Reverend Norris, and I mean real veterans, okay? I say from way back, y'all remember those Virginia Slims commercial? Okay, we've come a long way, baby. We have come a long way, but y'all, there's more to do for us to get where we need to be. And then it will just be the beginning, right, Lisa? We have lawyers on here. That's who they are. So they know it will only just be the beginning. Because y'all, I'm sorry, my husband pays $2 and sometimes $1.95 to get his shirts dry clean. My shirt blouse costs $12.
Hey, Sharon, did you know Q-tips? Q-tips cost more in the women's aisle than they do in the men's aisle?
The razors in the dollar store. How do you get?
That's a secret. That's a secret that I found out. As a man, I found out a long time ago. I said,
you saw it a long time ago.
I used the pink razor instead of the blue razor. It is what it is.
But get this.
Reverse.
But get this, Reginald. So in the blue pack, there's 5 to 7.
Get more.
In the pink pack, there's only what? There's only what, Reginald? 3. 1 to 3.
1 to 3, yeah.
Okay. Okay. So let us do this so we can really wrap it. We know we're winding down, but Cobby. I'm sorry. Who's that?
It's
Jean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just as a review, the activists are working in all 3 branches of government. So there's lawyers working in the courts on the court cases. I'm working to get Biden to publish the Equal Rights Amendment. And the other people are working on getting the Senate to vote to drop the ratification deadline. So we have activists in all 3 areas. And what you can do is help us put pressure on Biden for publication and
Schumer.
And talk to your senators about getting the floor vote, getting the HJK Res 17 to the floor, the Senate floor, to vote. So the Senate votes and drops the ratification deadline. Those are the 2 things we need you to talk to your senators about to get Equal Rights Amendment published and to get the vote on the floor of the Senate. Now Warnock and Ossoff in Georgia have done very little for us. Heads up.
Wow.
But Jean's right. What we really need to institute is this massive pressure campaign. That means keeping ERA on the lips, in the hearts, and in the minds of every representative, and clamor, scream for it, and clamor, and make all kinds of noise, and tell them, when you talk about Roe, why aren't you talking about the ERA in every talking point, in every interview, and every on camera, and every op-ed? I want to hear more about the ERA, because if we had the ERA, Roe would not have fallen.
Okay, Juliana.
Well, Juliana, we have not heard anything from you.
Yeah, I'm sorry, ladies. I was trying to respect the traffic laws, but I'm parked now, so I'm safe. Hey, I wanted just to hop on here. First of all, I know it's frustrating, and I really want to commend all of the freedom fighters here that are on this call. And I know that we have a multi-layer of issues, but this is a time for us, as the good Reverend said, to remember that we are women first, and to work with the allies with us that are thinking in the light of women first. Second of all, I really want to put out there to the group what I've been doing prior to Friday, and I continue to do it daily to young adults. Particularly, I talk to a lot of men. You have to be able to talk about this bill, what happened with Roe, and remind people that it's a Trojan horse. The words say abortion on the sideline, but a Trojan horse is layered in because that law speaks to people's HIPAA, the security of their health.
It's speaking of
Yes.
contraceptives. It's speaking to marriages. It's speaking to the way that our society is going to be evolving moving forward, because the language from that law has been placed into other, and people don't understand that. People just hear abortion and they superpose in their mind either a religious belief or a tragedy or a trauma, or they minimize it to something that's happening with women without really being able to understand that this is a Trojan horse law.
Yes.
It is
Yes.
going to open up and has opened up many different things. And when I bring things home to fathers, I say, does any fathers in the room, do you have daughters? As soon as they raise their hand, I said, I want you to know that as soon as your daughter has her period, she's a part of this movement too.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the grown woman who's using abortion as a form of birth control, and it's not the narrative that people are talking about. This was a Trojan horse, so we can talk about how to reverse laws. And what the court has done, what Claire Thomas is attempting to do, is go back 52 years at a time and era where white men felt like they had power. Foolishly, they have a black man leading the cause because he fails to understand that it's going to impact his household too, his children too, his daughters too, his nieces too. He's failing to understand that this is actually one of the biggest disgraces for the United States. And you have to remind them that. How can you be the leader of the free world when you're turning back the hands of time to what third world countries are fighting? How? No longer can you have international conversations anymore. Those international conversations affect our international presence and our economy. But you have to be able to have a narrative for each one of the topics or areas that you're at. And I'm creating narratives all over the place for men. I'm bringing them close to the facts. I'm letting them know that the average black man makes 1 cent to the dollar. And guess what? When you multiply children that you're going to be responsible for, because once the pregnancy test says yes, the DNA test is also going to say yes. Guess what real life is going to look like as well? I remind them that this is an economic issue. This is an issue that's going to put a lot of people, those women that are not traditionally highlighted as the welfare queens, are going to be economically downtrodden. It's going to be one of the most divisive issues from state to state as they continue to push more things into the states. And I go straight to the point. This is also a challenge to the 14th Amendment. There are lots of things that are on the table, and I think that we should have the conversation that we have with women, the conversation we have with girls and young adults. But you have to have a conversation to also bring men to the fold and other groups to the fold, so they can understand that the words say abortion on our Trojan horse. But guess what's inside, ladies and gentlemen? And guess what that's going to mean to you? I've been telling people and future casting to people what the reality of the United States is going to look like if we don't push back and fight back. If you were unhappy with any law, we had an operative word called reform. That's why
Yes.
that's why this whole United States has reform and amendments. It does not have backwards movements because we've evolved as a society. But this attack on the evolution and the future of the United States is going to define it for centuries to come and continue to create more divisions when you think it's just about abortion. So I talk to people about those rights. I want to leave that on your doorstep, ladies, as you're thinking about how you feel. And I know that this is a woman's issue on its surface. Please have your conversation ready for how to bring the men to the fold, the
Yes.
youth to the
Yes.
fold, the young adults to the
Yes.
fold. Let
Yes.
them know, young adults, that this is you. This is not a time for you to ignore the conversation. Let the men know this is you. The Trojan horse is here, and it's going to pack many different things. That conservative court is going to have the rights to go into anything that was not enumerated in the Constitution.
That's right.
250 years ago, were you relevant? If you were not relevant 250 years ago, if you were chattel, if you were a slave, guess what? Welcome to America, the new America that they want to create, the option for them to be able to make those realities. And lastly, and my very last point, besides calling everybody that you can, I do agree with that, is try to figure out a way to encourage more people to get involved in local government, state government, all layers of government. Stop staring at the presidency. Stop
There
staring
you
so stop staring at the presidency all day long.
there you
That
go.
pres
There you go.
I said you need all the layers to be covered and to encourage people as much as you can to get involved at, I don't care if it starts with PTA, get involved in every particular layer so you can have a voice at every layer, because if the push pull is to return it back to states that want to go back to 1776,
then
Yes.
our response should be to be able to have soldiers on the front line say, come on in, sir, because the rest of us are here 2022 and moving forward. You have to be able to encourage more young people to get into all the layers of government. We need more fighters in place. They've placed so many federal judges. They've placed so many different bombs in this Trojan horse, but we have a chance to counter that because we still have a lot more people that are just waking up to the reality. As soon as I wipe the words abortion right off of this, and I'm not wiping it away because abortion is not relevant, but as soon as I put it to the side and I say, now look at that Trojan horse, and I start piecing away at the language, and I start talking about your health privacy, and I start talking about your rights, and I start talking about your right to choose your partner, and I start talking about your contract, and then I bring it on home when I say I start talking about your grandbabies and talking
Yes.
about your granddaughters and talking about the world your grandson is going to have to live in, where every woman
Yes.
he touches or anybody that touches he has to pay for that too. I start talking about those realities. I start talking about how you're going to carry a fetus to term if the fetus is gone, but you can't have a DNC or a DNE. When you start bringing people closer to what can and is living in their household, that's when they join.
Agreed.
That's
And
when
Juliana said something really important about this idea of a Trojan horse. That Trojan horse is also a power grab. And it's a grab by the white patriarchy, white men in particular, that are trying to take away your independent freedoms, your choices, and not just pro-choice abortion. So just so you know, they're coming for us.
So let's get to the nitty-gritty. We're going to talk about the economics of all of this. What about all of those women who are having babies? Well, let me say this. Okay, if a man will kill a woman because she put too much mayonnaise on his sandwich, what will he do to that woman if she want to abort the baby that he don't want?
Women's lives are going to be more endangered. There's no doubt. And not just because of abortion, but because of physical abusers, right? Domestic violence, sexual assault. So you're going to see more of that.
Yep, and we haven't yet, and the economics of that is very true because they haven't thought about this law. They haven't thought about this law all the way through. As somebody was talking about earlier on, where are you going to put these babies? You've defunded DFAS. You've added more dangerous people into the populace that can easily buy guns. You've put more women in danger. In all in this little span of time, and worse off, what are you going to start building jails with maternity wards? How are you going to check it? How are you going to police it? Most of the police departments have declined since 2020. Most people are still fighting the COVID. So there's many different things that they're not thinking about. It's going to cost and cripple the United States to even try to fully enforce all of the tragic laws that they're attempting to push forward. How are you going to enforce it? Many have tried and none have won. But here we are at the precipice of a recession, coming off of one of the hardest times most people have hit. Now you want to add a law that where are we funding it? We're sending our funding to the Ukraine war, but where are we funding this? Are the police going to be grabbing people's bellies? And that's what I said. Your privacies have to be gone. Your HIPAA laws have to be gone for somebody to start reading to find out whether you have a positive blood test or not. And that means that other people's properties are going to be wide open, and that information can go to your employer and anybody that can hack it. You've changed the dynamics with just this one cruel move. And I bring it all the way home to people's actual personal lives. If you think it's just about some abortion or some woman using abortion for birth control pills, or God also says free will. We're on this earth with free will. Everybody has the right for free will. If God gave us each and out of us free will to choose him or not to choose him, how come the Bible can give free will to choose, but our governments can't? It's a weird twist on the way that we are presenting ourselves as a nation. But I want you to think about that. Think about how much work we're going to have to do, taxes we're going to have to pay to fund the policing of this law in any shape, form, or fashion. We don't even have the infrastructure for it whatsoever. We should have leaned in on reform. We shouldn't have stepped back into the dark ages. That was one of the greatest mistakes. And I hope that people keep saying, you should have leaned in with reform if you didn't like the bill. You shouldn't have stepped back into the dark ages. And you should have leaned in with the ERA. You cannot have more than half of your populace, your most populace, as leading all of your health care services,
Largest
your
voting
and your
bloc.
businesses. You can't block women like that and cripple us and think it won't cripple your economy. I mean, the economies of that is that women run small businesses. Women make 80% of your healthcare providers. Women make majority of your service workers. Women make the majority of your major industries. You're crippling us to have us sit at home with 10,000 babies. That's not going to be great for your economy, sir. Check the numbers. Check
Yeah,
the
check
numbers.
it out.
As well, Mara has joined us. Mara, hello. I know we kept losing Kabi, but she is, what is it? I think now, Lisa, she is
She's the executive vice president of Virginia now, and she also sits on the national board.
national board. Yes, I wanted to make sure that she was acknowledged, and she also actually, in a time long ago, created an organization that was the Abortion Fund. And yes, most definitely, just as we have now
Sitting on
the
a pickle
C
jar.
pills. Oh, there she is.
There's
Bobby,
Bobby.
tell them all about your pickle
Cobby,
jar and how you
Cobby, come on before you go, because Mara is on.
Speak, Bobby.
Are you?
I am
Can you-
concerned that women are now
Okay.
second-class citizens. All women are. And that what they've done is at the federal level, the Constitution has liberty and there are a number of places, but they have removed privacy. And when they've done that, they have now removed abortion. But I'm told by lawyers that underpinnings of the Constitution, when they've taken the
Oh, we lost her.
Oh, that's too bad. Can I jump
Yeah, we
in?
lost.
Late
Go
comer?
ahead, Mara.
But have you all been talking about a strike or no? Anybody talking about a strike? National strike?
No, what are we striking?
What are we striking?
This is about Dobbs and Roe, correct?
and the equal rights
Right,
movement.
right? It's if American women strike, folks, they'll have to give us
Yeah,
our.
but that's also an issue of privilege because women can't usually afford to strike. They have babies at home and they can't afford to lose a day of work. And so that's the problem with a strike.
Are you all going to the NOW conference in Chicago?
Yes.
A few of us are, yes.
Are you all going to the Women's March conference in Houston? Anybody?
Oh, we do need to speak. We do need to. We can share our information of what opportunities are available because people need to know about all of them. And I think, yes, that's very important. Jean has given the other information for the actions of contacting our senators as well as calling for the vote as well as publishing as well. And what I think, we can get the other details that can be put on the YouTube, right, Sylvia and Reginal, for people to get like the phone numbers to call.
Yeah.
Okay. We have the YouTube link that we can use to push out with the information of the actions that we are all engaged in. I did want to, so you all, we're winding down now, right?
Yeah, but as long
Okay,
as we just comes, because I had planned, I said this is going to be more than an hour.
Oh yeah, we're gonna go a little bit.
It's
Well,
gonna be
well, I
more than an hour
appreciate
because
that.
There's a lot to talk about.
Okay.
And I know one of the things that my concern is, okay, all those lawmakers, you know, a lot of them are having these affairs with these women, and they force them to have an abortion because it will ruin their reputation and mess up their marriages. So are they going to be held accountable as well? What you think is going to happen with that?
Privilege is going to step in.
I think a lot of them are hypocrites.
Okay, well, no, a lot of them are hypocrites. And so a lot of them have these backroom abortions. And, until women call them out, then of course they will always be hidden. But another thing that I want to say is that we have to stop blaming the Dems, always the Dems. You know, let's put it where the, as Malcolm X says, let's put it like so the crows can get it. It's the Republicans who are doing this. And they are the ones who's pushing it, because if this could have been when they had control with the Green Party and all of this, all of those who are fighting for ERA and doing this, you could have put it right on their table and they would have pushed it. But what this thing is doing, and what I want to make sure of, because I talk to the churches, I ask the church women and the ministers, what is your issue? And how come you have not spoken out? Some. But there are some who are now meeting, as we talk now, across the nation about the Black woman's issue as it relates to you will not break our soul. So we have to communicate in a unified way to not just blame somebody and not just blame the Dems and not just blame the Republicans, because I don't want this to be a November 8th issue like when the vote came for the presidency and my white sisters both changed and then voted for their race rather than what was right. So this is what I'm saying. We have to be unified. Either you're for women, all women, or you're just for your group.
That's a good statement.
Sister solidarity. We are all in this together.
And speaking of groups, I wanted to make sure, you all, I would be remiss if I did not recognize, and we have, we've already mentioned about the representation here for now. That's National Organization for Women, right? Okay. But we also have like the young people. I think we had mentioned that about getting them involved and making sure, well, we do have Generation Ratify. There's what is it? Vote Equality. And thank you, Juliana, so very much. Juliana is Workforce Strong. And let's be real clear that females are the largest heads of households. That's where real economics comes in. Okay, to be real clear. So to Jean, Rethinking Eve, Feminist Majority, Equal Means Equal, of course. ERA Coalition, we have League of Women Voters, Katrina's Dream, and what am I doing? Who else, you all?
About 300, organizations that
I know, so many. Thank you.
But if you can say those all in 2 minutes flat, Sharon, I will give you a prize.
Well, no, I just wanted to make sure. And again, Katrina's Dream is a faith as well, and Reverend Norris, of course, as well as myself and others. As you heard, Jean, she's Catholic, and so many others. We're all connected, and that's why this is so important, because, as I like to say, this is a we thing. This is you, me, all of us, because the Equal Rights Amendment is equal rights for all.
All means all.
Okay, if you want a hashtag, it's for all, y'all. Okay?
It's for all, y'all.
And all, y'all. Okay, somebody is asking here,
equal rights,
how to build
rights. Don't forget.
Hold on, you all. Someone is asking, someone is asking how to build a safety net for women who live in states with restrictive laws.
Our brother wants to ask a question, Sharon.
Who is that?
That's it. That's it. That's the question.
That was the question. Right.
There's a group of women pilots. There's a group of women pilots that are talking about bringing their plane into various states and picking up women who need abortions and taking them to states where there are no restrictions on abortion to get them the care that they need. But let's not forget that equal rights equals repro rights, and they go hand in hand. Equal rights, I mean, chant it with me. Equal rights equals repo rights. We need both.
Repo rights. That's what we need to carry, y'all. Yeah. Okay. If we're trying to give a message, let's keep it moving, that for all that everyone is standing up for, that it is Equal Rights Amendment. The ERA, effectively pretty much the 28th Amendment, okay, because we have breached the 2 years and now we just need enshrinement, but we first have to remove that arbitrary deadline for that is right now in the Senate under SJ Res 17 and SJ Res 1. So yes, for our senators here in Georgia, Warnock and Ossoff, of which when we reached out, we have gotten that, well, there's the deadline. And we're saying, yeah, well, get the Judiciary Committee, of which Senator Ossoff is on. Let's get that done and then have the vote from the floor. Let's know who is doing it and let's get it done. I want to thank everybody that was able to, you all. Thank you, Sylvia, for reaching out. I'm looking for us to make sure that we stay connected to Good News at Primetime, this YouTube, with information as we are formulating, as we are providing actions, the phone numbers, whatever emails need to be put out, and share it. Okay?
And you don't have to reinvent the wheel. If you need something, we've got it. We can provide it. So please reach out.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, you know, as always, Reginal and Sylvia, I always get a little help from my friends. So I thank you all.
Sorry.
Okay, so like, you know, last year they were tying the tubes of immigrants, you know, trying to keep them from having babies. And now they want people to have babies. Can they make up their minds?
No, I
think you want them to have babies or you don't want them to have babies. Or is it certain people who are going to have babies? Because if a lot of people have babies and they can't afford it, and then these babies going to get neglected, then they're going to be putting these women in jail. It's a double jeopardy for them. And a lot of these women, because I've known women whose life was in danger and the doctor said no more babies. And there have been women who took the birth control pill, they got pregnant, who had their tubes tied, they got pregnant. They had IUD, they got pregnant. Nothing they did would keep them from getting pregnant. You know, and now to say, if you have an abortion, we're going to put you in jail, there's something wrong with that. I know a woman who, every time her last 2 babies made her very sick. You know, she had to stay in the hospital for a while. She had to have her tubes tied because the next time she was going to die. My great-grandmother died from childbirth. I was on the table hemorrhaging with my baby. And the first thing came to my mind, my great-grandmother. You know, I don't want that to happen to women. Women go through a lot trying to have these babies. And what's going to happen to all of these men? What's going to happen to all of these men who's having all of these babies?
So that's what we need. We need those stories. We need those stories that provide us with to undergird why. That's the why. We have the how with the ERA, but we still need the why. And that's how people can further be engaged. Your senators need to hear your stories.
Yeah.
Okay. Ladies, and that's what really needs to be posted on your YouTube site.
Yep. I'll be glad to give it to them because it doesn't make sense. When I heard that Roe versus Wade was overturned, I was ticked off to the teeth. I mean, enough to make my blood pressure go up, you know, because it's like they have no right to control these women's bodies. If a man went through the labor that women goes through to have these babies, they think twice or 3 times, you know, before they even do something like this. And all of these men who call themselves having their little fun and getting away with it, they're going to have to pay child support. And it ticked me off when this man bragged about he had 20 children and didn't take care of one of them. That ticked me off. And now all of these men who telling their sons, go sow your oats, have all the, go get to all you want, and these girls gonna be having babies, these little college kids and some grown men put stuff in women's drink to knock them unconscious so they can have sex with them. And some of them do get pregnant, and some of the women are too ashamed to say anything, and they just have an abortion. So what about that? What about when they can't get an abortion? They can't afford to go across the state line if it's totally banned in their area. What about that? And what about the 13-year-old who don't know anything about pregnancy, and she's find herself being pregnant and don't know it because of incest? What about those people? And then the parents can't afford it. What's going to happen with all of those kids? And she's just a child herself, don't know nothing, don't even know how to take care of herself, more less than take care of a baby. These things gonna have to be addressed. And it ticks me off that they put all these rules on the women and the men's gonna get away scot-free. I think any man who rape a child and she get pregnant should be castrated. I'm gonna be honest. They should be castrated, and they should get rid of all of this Viagra, because they still pushing Viagra. And to tell you the truth, all these women who can't get the morning after pill, who can't get abortion, who can't get child birth control pills because they're gonna ban it, I think they should close the cookie jar. And then we're gonna see what happened to the men. They're gonna be upset because the cookie jar is not open anymore. And then they're going to start abusing people. And then they're going to start killing people and taking people and raping them and all that other stuff. It's going to be a mad cycle. And then they letting them have these guns. So women going to have to take on.
But see, I think this is another thing. It's time for women to stop supporting these men in these offices. It's time for women to rise and move into those electoral offices, because they have had it ever since civil rights and Reformation. They have not spoken up for women. And I'm going to say with the Black men, we think about them, and when they were given the right to vote, it was Harriet Tubman and Septima Clark and them say, but wait a minute, y'all going to be worse than the white men. So it is something that white women, Black women, whoever you are, you need to think about grooming someone to take these individual seats. Why do we keep electing people who don't want us, but then they want to use us as mules to raise money and go out there and knock on the door? And then after they are finished with us, then they discard us. And none of them are talking about Roe versus Wade. I'm talking about the Black men and the white men. You want to use a law, a Eurocentric colonial law that was indoctrinated into you to use against Black women or an Indian woman or any woman. So we need to rethink some of these brethren in these offices. If they don't,
what that means is that we need to elect equality. That means to elect equality candidates, to get out the vote, and to elect more Black and brown people, and particularly more Black and brown women.
But
we
also
need more women to represent us at all levels of government.
But see, equality means also, my sister, is that it's time for women to realize that they can be leaders too.
Absolutely.
Right.
They can be leaders too.
But
they can be leaders too, and they are. And so equality means that no longer supporting just because you a man and you wear a suit or some pants. So I'm saying think outside the box.
And ladies, you know what? I know it's a very complicated issue when we look at Roe versus Wade. And one of the things, a lot of things that I've heard from all of you as a male, it opened my eyes because, I'm pro-choice and I'm pro-life, but I'm also pro-choice. But a lot of time in my circles of men, the first thing they just look at the A word. They just look at abortion, and they don't think about all the other things that are hidden in these, especially when it comes down to the 14th Amendment, from voters' rights to education they can
Loving
overturn
versus
Brown
Virginia,
versus Board.
interracial
Yeah. Well,
marriage.
they won't. Well, they won't mess with interracial marriage because that Clarence
Clarence
Thomas, he can't do
Thomas.
that. Yeah, he won't touch that one. But everything else
But it's a
that
slippery
Supreme
slope.
Court
You're
has
right.
done, they'll be touching. Yeah, but everything else, everybody's, it's just like history. In Germany, everybody was okay until they came for them. Everybody was okay until they came for them. So a lot of the men, especially black men, brown men, older men, younger men, men in general, when they start coming for your family members, my granddaughter, my niece, then it becomes relevant. And I think as men, when we look at women, because at first I was just, they just getting rid of abortion. Why these ladies out here hitting these streets? They ought to be thinking about something else. But as you break the issue down and you make it relevant to men, especially, I don't think you can do anything about the gray-haired white man. I don't think you can do anything about the gray-haired white men. A lot of them are locked in their ways, and even some of the gray-haired black men, because they hadn't understood the relevance of women in life at all, other than creating life and being on the terms in which they want them to be. But thank you all. You have to give us in a little quick snapshot of how to get in touch with you and what type of events or activities you all are having.
Okay. Well, I think Sharon is going to give you that information because she has the list, because we are with Helena's Dream. Some of us are with that, and each one represents their organization. I will get more information to Sharon about the national move under Dr. Renita Weems and some other Black scholars who teach at a lot of these schools, Yale schools, who's meeting to see the Black woman's agenda as it relates to Roe. So they are meeting tonight. So I'll get that. No, I've already given that to Sharon. And so she has that. So she'll get that to you, because there needs to be voices of every group, National Organization of Women. I love it, but a lot of people don't know that when it was first started, it was started by some elderly, well, they're elderly now, African-American women who work for the federal government. So Black women have always been on the forefront of doing stuff. The problem is that they don't have the money to push it. And once they give the idea, the money people take the idea and build it, but they are moving and shaking. And Virginia has its own being that it's a Commonwealth place. So we really need to look at stuff as we relate to how this woman's ERA is going to impact women in all states, because it's very different. In Maryland, it's different. In DC, it's different. New York. So it's a movement where we need all of the voices and all of the women to take rise as a unified group, and no one change just because of whatever the reason, like they did under the presidency twice.
And many people don't know it was actually the Republicans that introduced the Equal Rights Amendment. And it's been President Ford that was the only president to issue a proclamation for the ERA. So we need everybody to step up and take action. Democrat, Republican, Black, white, multiracial, gay, straight, right? We're all in this together. But women are on the pointy end of the spear. So we need to take care of each other.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
And stop false narratives as it relates to who's a welfare queen, who's this. If the truth is going to be spoken, let it be true that, the poorest in this country is whites. And so we need to stop this narrative of always making Black people, but also Black women who will be forced, if they can't have a job, to go back out there, and with white women and others, to sell themselves for money. So we're not dealing with that ER issue. And remember, it was the men that put them out there.
Women to this day, in one of the wealthiest countries on earth, if not the wealthiest country on earth, are the poorest of the poor. Women in America.
Yeah. And when you mentioned the Johns, I was thinking all of those Johns, gonna have babies, gonna have John Juniors. You know,
Uh-huh. Yep.
it's going to be out there. They're going to have those young juniors. So no
Yep.
more
Let's not
sneaking
forget,
out.
a rising tide lifts all boats and minimizes
Yeah.
the Johns, as you say, right? So if we lift everybody up and we make people more equal and we're more equity minded, equity focused, right? We're going to be more successful, prosperous country together.
Yeah.
Oh my.
Yeah.
And so that leads us to what this time is. This is election 22. And so also focusing on, equality candidates.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
And if
Equality
they say
candidates.
they will not vote to codify Roe, and if they say they will not vote to change the state constitutions to make robust state ERAs, and if they say they are not committed to the federal Equal Rights Amendment, they should not earn your vote.
Mhm.
Right.
And I want to speak
Right.
into existence the Alpha Suffrage League, which was the Black women who really pushed equal rights because of how Black men. So no one wants to deal with the issue that ERA was really birthed before the women got it, because the Alpha Suffrage League was really pushing it, and they had a league saying, oh no, we want equal rights. But as with anything, those voices are always pushed to the side. And that's why I have been a pioneer to say, no, I can't say I came from Timbuktu, but I can say that the wombs of my ancestor matriarchs built the wealth of this nation. Their milk gave to the white children because the white women couldn't make milk. And so they cooked their food. They did so many. So America was built on the backs of enslaved Black women. And we need to have their voices. And no longer will they be put into this thing called minority, or being that, oh, you're from Africa. Yeah, I may be from Africa, but I don't know which part. And I stand for the women, no matter where it is, who built this country with her womb with free labor.
Yeah.
Amen.
And with that, we're gonna come to a close. I just want to say that women give their life, to create life. And
Mhm. Mhm. You're frozen, Sylvia.
So,
You're
but definitely
She's back
thank
now.
all of you. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, ladies, and all the work that you're putting in. And we definitely appreciate your efforts out there. This whole conversation had made me look and research the whole Roe versus Wade. Thought I knew some things, but when it comes down to the rights of women, uh, I've got sisters, I've got aunts, I got cousins, I got so many women, granddaughters that will be affected by this down the road. So I definitely want to do something and participate so that I can be a better man. And I think if all men looked at it that way, other than just getting polarized with the A word, abortion,
You're a
killing
true
babies.
ally, Reginald, and we need our male allies. We need our male
Thank you.
allies to join the fight. So thank you. Bless you.
Okay. And thank
And,
you, ladies.
and,
So, and my question for Reginald, is it possible for you to get a group of fellas together and approach Reverend Warnock and ask him to start talking about the importance of the Equal Rights Amendment?
I will. Matter of fact, part of what I'm here in the background is holding up your own end. And you guys made me when you brought out that I know he's running against Herschel Walker, but we need those two senators to be proactive on women. And one of my stances with politicians is that either we need to rent them, own them, lease them, or control some of the efforts. They come to us when it's time to vote. I did not know their stance. I seen his voting rights on certain things he's done, and some of them didn't look that good. But again, looking at politicians in the future, especially in November, people that are going to be doing those things that are going to be in the best interest of us, our families, and our community. So I've got another organization, Dads on Duty and Moms on a Mission. So we'll get some of the fellows and we'll see can we approach them.
Yeah.
Great,
Okay.
thank you.
So thank you, ladies. I really yeah, we really appreciate it. And yeah, when I would keep thinking about this is like communism, you know, controlling us is like communism. I can't deal with that, you know, and I've always been an independent person. I can't even deal with my husband trying to control me, more or less than the government, you know. So we got just
talk is cheap, right? Talk is cheap. They run on our backs. They run and they use us. They need to change the laws that benefit us too.
Yes, they do, because I know right now, as far as Black and brown women, they don't get the best health care. Women, they die because the doctors won't treat them right in the hospital. No, I was listening to this man talk about, he kept telling the nurses about his wife, and they wouldn't do anything, and she ended up dying from having a baby. She ended up dying, and he had a single parent. And that's another thing. All these women who don't want to have the babies and they're forced to have them, give them to the men. Let them take care of them. That's what needs
it'll be a change of things.
Huh?
Yeah, that would change some things.
Yes,
imagine the tax dollars that are going to be needed to take care of all of those children, those mouths to feed, and all the abuse that's going to come from a system that doesn't take care of its children.
Yeah. And already, you know, kids, when they go into foster care, a lot of them are being abused as it is. You know, a lot of them. So you don't want to put children in those kind of situations. If a woman have 4 kids and she can't afford another one, why are you going to force her to have another one? And then the man don't want any more kids and he's going to run off and leave her. And then she's stuck with all those kids and he's going about his business. That's not fair for the women. It is not fair. You know, and I something got to be done. Something we got to work on these laws. We got to work on them. So I'm going to say, stand up for what you believe in. You got to stand up and don't say the one mouth don't make a difference, because it does. Squeaky wheels, they make noise, and they're going to be heard, and they're going to be seen, and something's going to be done if you keep on squeaking. So you just keep on talking. And thank you, ladies. Thank you, Reggie, everybody. And don't forget, Power Thoughts, you can get it at dang, I forgot about that. Anyway, Power Thoughts. Look it up by Sylvia Hayes. It will enhance your life. ankproductions.com. Okay, that's where you can get it. ankproductions.com. Power Thoughts, empowering you to be successful in life. And this is not a financial empowerment. This is a mental empowerment to really get you stirred up, make you think, and make you love yourself, and make you have higher self-esteem. It's just empowering. Okay, stand up for what you believe in. That's the Power Thought for today. And until next week, we're going to say, y'all have a good one, and women, be strong. And don't let this get to you, because it ain't over till the fat woman sings. Y'all have a good one.